Well, it's advertised as an erotic thriller, and that is, yep, that's what it is. Can confirm. Howdy, I'm Kurt Williams, and today we're looking at issue 1 of Somna by Becky, Cloonan, and Tula Lotay. And listen, the only reason that I finally bought this issue is because DSTLRY has the most aggressive marketing campaign I've ever seen for a comic book. I've got ads popping up on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Everywhere I go, it's just DSTLRY being like, have you read our smut comic yet? Have you read our smut comic yet? And the first 10 times I saw that advertisement, I thought, nah, that's not gonna work on me. But then by the 11th time I thought, what the heck. So this is an oversized issue with cardstock covers. It's got a really great cover illustration on there. The story takes place in, 17th century New England area. It's the Salem witch trials era, and that's really as specific as it needs to be. We follow this character Ingrid, who's having some sleep paralysis troubles, and the art style switches back and forth throughout the comic. When she's asleep, it's Tula Lotay on art, and when she's awake, it's Becky Cloonan drawing. Ingrid's husband is a witch finder who's got no time for loving, only time for burning innocent women. So Ingrid is looking for more passion in her life, and she's not getting it from her husband. So instead, we've got this kind of creepy guy who keeps showing up and visiting Ingrid in her really naughty dreams. Meanwhile, Ingrid's best friend is having an affair with the guy whose wife was just burned at the stake for being a witch, and Ingrid is struggling to feel sexually fulfilled. Overall, I think this comic is pretty good. I think it's really neat that we have this surreal, but also very detailed and very lush art style for her dreams, but then we have this much more rigid, classical line work style for the rest of the story. So to me, that feels like Ingrid is living in this very lawful, purist society where everything has to be within the lines at all times, but in her dreams she feels more alive and fulfilled and vivid, even though what she's doing in her dreams would be considered sinful activity in her everyday life. I don't know if that's what the artist intended, but that's the way I'm interpreting it. I think we have this really smooth progression where she's frightened of the dreams she has at first, but then she moves towards being at least a little bit more comfortable with them, kind of expecting them, almost looking forward to them by the end of the issue. But we do have a few times where she tries to engage with her husband so that she can fulfill herself in a way that she believes to be morally pure. So it's not as if this is some two-dimensional story about some bad girl living amongst all these good Protestant Christians. I also like the way they establish new scenes with things other than just people. Like in this scene where we establish it with a fire that you can practically hear, or like this scene where we're in the town square and there's just these geese wandering around, or like this scene where we establish that it's morning by showing some birds flying around in the sunrise. It's also nice how much time we spend looking at the subplot where we have Ingrid's friend sleeping with this guy whose wife was just killed because they're leaving her body up in the town square for probably a couple more weeks, and this poor guy just has to see her there while he's mourning her and also feeling terrible about sleeping with somebody else. So it is just good drama. I can't tell if the guy who's visiting Ingrid in her dreams is supposed to be the devil. I feel like the implications of that character being the devil would be kind of two-dimensional. I doubt that the author's intention is to convince us that finding sexual pleasure is inherently sinful, or that that's what the devil wants. I guess she could be saying that the devil is resourceful, so he'll just find the hole that we have in our lives and try to fill it with himself. Maybe that's what she's saying. But I think it's more likely that this character is not specifically the devil and he represents something else that we'll get to later. So overall, I think the plot was really good. It's a really interesting premise. The pacing was good. The characters are all fleshed out and interesting. There's a lot of drama, but none of it feels forced. It all feels like natural, believable drama. I don't normally read smut. Really, I don't. I swear! So I don't really know how to critique smut. It all felt naturally paced, I guess, so I guess it was good. There's these couple pages of art where it's pushed into such a realistic territory that it's almost like Uncanny Valley, but I like the effects that they do with fire in particular, especially this panel here, where we see the witch being burned way down there and there's a giant column of smoke with these sparks flying. It's pretty cool to look at. The coloring is pretty good. I think sometimes the colors are a little bit more flat than I'd like them to be in the parts where she's awake, but especially in the parts where she's sleeping. The colors are really well done. Something about the lettering that kind of bugs me, but I'm not sure how intentional it is when this guy who may or may not be the devil speaks to her in her dreams, he's got this font that's purple and white and it looks kind of fuzzy, like out of focus. And that might be with the intention of having an effect of like the voices all around you. You can't tell where it's coming from. But practically speaking, it meant I just had to focus in on the words so I could figure out what the frick he was saying. And I don't really consider this a spoiler. This last page here has such a cool design to it. It's almost like a Hellboy looking design. line. That's a really nice picture right there. So I thought Somna was pretty good. Maybe it was worth taking the advice of those pesky ads. I kind of wish it wasn't so giant, because now I have to go and buy a different size bag and board. And if the fact that it's giant is the reason that it costs $9 for one issue, then I'm double not happy about that. It seems like DSTLRY, who is a new publisher, is trying to make people notice them just by doing gimmicks, like printing everything way too freaking big, and I myself am not a gimmick kind of guy. I dream of a day when comics may be judged by the content of their pages, and not by the size of their pages. But, overlooking that, it's still a pretty good comic. So I'm gonna give issue 1 of Somna an 8 out of 10. I'm excited to see where it goes, I'm invested in the story, I care about the characters. It's pretty good stuff. I know that Becky Cloonan has been thinking about this story for a long time, and you can tell it feels very well thought through. So yeah, it's pretty good, and I think you should go buy it. I'm sorry that I'm not some pretty girl who's fanning herself with it like those stupid ads I got 24/7 for weeks, but I would hope that my review is at least half as convincing as that video. Go spend your money on it. Don't show your girlfriend though, or maybe do show your girlfriend. And if you read it and you like it, or you don't like it, or you burned it at the stake or whatever, let me know what you think.